welcome to the Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education meeting for Wednesday, February 26th, 2014 at 6 p.m. Has this meeting been properly noticed?
Yes.
Please call the roll.
Yeah. Dito?
Here.
Eliason?
Here.
Garner?
Here.
Herzog?
Here.
Stemberger?
Here.
Saginac?
Here.
Wiedenhoff?
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right. This evening will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by a Green Meadow student. Did Catherine show up as well? No? Okay. Well, then we will be led this evening by Devin Cundy. Please rise and follow Devin in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you very much. This is an appreciation for your participation this evening. And I would also tell you that as we often tell everyone, these meetings will be
taking care of you, John.
Discriminating here. But now it won't load much.
Please.
Took his
All right. Next on the agenda, Board President's Report. I have nothing on my report except just to mention that on Saturday, March 1st, there will be an event at Beckett's. I believe it's sponsored by several students at Oshkosh West who have been collecting prom gowns from the area. They've collected over 200 prom gowns in order to have them used by those who may not be able to afford one of their own. And they are putting on a, is this in your, I'm not stepping on your toes. Okay.
I will skip it if it is. So.
They're putting on a small fashion show, and then proceeds, if you stay and eat dinner, 10% of the proceeds will go towards their charitable event.
And then you have.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Then I also have an award. We are members of the Wisconsin Association of School Boards, and WASB has recognized one of our school board members, John. Oh, excuse me. Well, no, it's John Ashley. It's from John Ashley. John Lemberger, and I guess John is receiving the WASB membership level 1 for his contribution and participation in WASB programs, leadership efforts, and board development. And they're giving you both a pin and this certificate of achievement. So, thank you, John.
Nice job.
Superintendent's report.
Yeah. I trust that we'll quickly, oh my, the action is quick. This evening we have a number of issues, and this evening I will go through the entire list since on the second meeting of the month we do not have our two senior or two high school board representatives present, and I won't worry about stepping on their toes on notices of items. Oshkosh West boys swimmers qualify for the state. Congratulations to the following Oshkosh state qualifying boys swimmers: Nate Summers, Adam Tusher, Taylor Skino, Adam Long, Jacob Slezak, Mitchell Slezak, Luke Lillaby, and Cole Coons. The athletes competed in Madison this past Saturday and broke a number of school records. Tippler Middle School had a STEM night, and Improves Learning is Fun. It was on February 25th, and it was another successful STEM experience with a number of activities included for that evening, and it's being repeated across our district in our middle schools. Mark your calendars for this exciting event on Friday, March 28th. The OASD Education Foundation will be sponsoring the first annual Building Communities Through Education Trivia Night. This event is open to students and adults from all communities. The event will consist of 10 rounds of trivia questions with 10 questions in each round. Prizes will be awarded to first, second, and last place teams, plus raffle prizes will be available. The event will be held at Oshkosh West High School in the main gym, with doors opening at 6 p.m. and the contest starting at 7 p.m. The cost participation is $80 a team, or $10 each individual in the team. Team registration materials are available by emailing Brad Jatowski at Oshkosh School at the Oshkosh Schools, or calling directly. Information is available on the website. You won't want to miss this exciting event. We are not being presumptuous in calling this a first annual event, but we're hoping that it will continue into the future. So we're grateful for the opportunity for the foundation to raise funds for the school district. Smith students visit their pal. Smith Elementary School students, 5th grade students, had the opportunity to visit Marvel Manufacturing's Smith partners in the learning with PAL. Students were given a tour of the facility. They talked about the requirements and the various jobs while linking new career and career skills in the real world. This was followed up by a lunch with employees, and I've had a chance to tour Marvel Manufacturing as well, and I'm sure there were a lot of interesting machines to observe in working in that process. The Alps Charter School received a Mimic Foundation grant courtesy of Niehaus Agency with $497.94 grant. Students will help choose higher level young teen reading materials for their classroom library. Lakeside, 3rd graders helped to welcome new students. Lakeside 3rd graders have been working on strategies to make school an even more welcoming place than it already was for students, staff, and visitors. 3rd grade students have been presenting ideas on how the whole school welcoming morning meetings. One group did a skit to demonstrate how to welcome in the hallways, and another group has begun a poster contest to welcome incoming kindergartners at the open house. Thank you to the 3rd graders at Lakeside School. Merrill hosts youth leadership and Oshkosh students. On February 12th, Merrill Elementary Middle School and ALP hosted Youth Leadership Oshkosh on Education Day. 24 high school juniors from Northwest, Lourdes, and Valley Christian participated in the classroom job shadows with question and answers with 8th graders and their high school experience. Youth Leadership Oshkosh is a program of the Oshkosh Chamber of Commerce and is designed to help build leadership with young adults. A big thank you to Cindy Olson, principal at Merrill Middle School, and Sarah Paquette, principal at Merrill Elementary and Alps Charter School, for their work in hosting and arranging for the visit. A big thank you also for the 24 teachers at Merrill Elementary, Middle, and ALP for hosting those students in their classroom. So a wonderful experience of cross-age learning and support. Preschool students share the love. There are 4 universal rules for ASK 4K classrooms. Number 1, keep kindness in your heart, be safe, be gentle, and be helpful. In celebration of Valentine's Day, the preschool center as a whole decided to do something kind and helpful. They decided to share some kindness, show some helpfulness to others by creating and sending Valentine cards to members of the community who were sick, hospitalized, homebound, or who had done something helpful at the preschool program. The children created 50 cards. Each student made 1 card and were sent by the mail and hand-delivered on February 13th and 14th. The response from the recipients was awesome. In return, they received at least a dozen personal thank yous, some in person and some over the phone. So wonderful inter-age experience once again. 100-day celebration. Now, it's been a long time since we've in schools think about how important it is to celebrate 100 days, but when you're a kindergartner at Oak Brook 4K, children have been counting up the days as they do on the wall as they deal with calendars, and parents were invited to celebrate the 100th day with class and fun by all. The children bought 100 food items, created a 100-day trail mix. There were 100 theme centers making 100 Black Tower, making 100 Fruit Loop necklace, putting together 100-piece puzzle, filling in the missing numbers from 1 to 100, stamping 100, and creating 100 crowns. The children and parents had much fun enjoying the day together, and a number of photos that contain that experience. I am certain that counting theory, number theory, really will pay off in the future for our future kindergartners after this year. STEM night, as we noted earlier, another elementary, this time Carl Traeger Middle School, held its second annual STEM night on Thursday, February 13th. STEM night is a fun-filled night that provides an opportunity for students and their families to experience hands-on science, technology, engineering, and math activities. There were about 275 students and their families in attendance who walked through oblique engineered earthquake-proof spaghetti towers, encased themselves in a giant bubble, and so much more. We are very thankful for the following groups who ensure our night's success: UW Oshkosh, Wes O'Neill Honor Society, Bemis, Wave Robotics, Sailing Club, District Technology Department, Winnebago Audubon Society, Deb Nuvo, Carl Traeger PTO, and the Carl Traeger staff. Highlight of this event was James Szłakowski, a former Traeger West student who presented his doctorate research. He has designed a new medical imaging for cancer detection. Special thanks to two school board members, Mr. Lassen, and sharing his expertise, and Mr. Wiedenhoff for participating in the event at Traeger Middle School. Webster Middle School had a very busy week in their awards assembly. The pep band played, and many student staff competitors were held, including hula hoop contest and 2 girl hula hoop with 10 hula hoops. Webster also had the second PBIS celebration with a great deal of no deal event. Students and teachers won some fun prizes during the assembly. They also were able to present the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society a donation of $1,104. Oshkosh West Cross Country. Now, this seems unusual to be talking about cross country in the middle of winter, but the Oshkosh West High School boys cross country team was selected by the Wisconsin Cross Country Coaches Association as the all-academic team. Members must have a GPA of at least 3.5 or better to be eligible, and theirs was 3.8, and members of the team are listed, and congratulations to all. Without further delay, Oakwood kindergartners also celebrated their 100th day this past week, and YMCA hosts a corporate challenge, and that's coming up this Saturday. Soche may have hosted the 2014 Winter Olympics, but the Oshkosh YMCA hosted 2014 challenge. The tenses are a little bit. They will host it they host it on Saturday, February 22nd. The event open to all area businesses, motivated staff to prepare through individual health and wellness and foster collaboration and team building. The Oshkosh Area School District has captured cups in previous years, first place honors in events like swimming, relays, dodgeball, team building challenges, specifically the Board of Education building a cardboard boat and racing it across the pool. The highlight this year was a full OASD participant list. Every event had a full team from the Oshkosh School District. Congratulations to Alliance Laundry Systems for earning first place cup with 4Imprint capturing the Team Spirit Award. We look forward to the 2015 competition. Oshkosh West FFA Ice Fishing Club placed 5th as a fishing team. The students are listed. It was the championship of the weekend on Lake Winnebago. The Emmeline Cook group started cross country, and I'm going to turn that over to either Allison or Steve, because you both have participated in the cross country event.
Go ahead, Steve. This is your baby.
Okay. Well, this is really on the heels of the model developed with Dr. Smiltnick from Theta Care with the Ice Skating Club, basically just kind of thrusting or gently nudging this project along with a receptive principal and other staff and families and kids. And so we took that very template and rolled it into cross-country skiing on-site at Emmeline Cook School. So a little community of supporters and advocates in cross-country skiing came together. Gear came together thanks to St. Vincent de Paul Society for donating a bunch of gear, as well as I'm drawing a blank right now.
Lord's Academy.
Lord's Academy, sorry, for making their gear available. And then just, as I said, a number of parents and did some instruction. And we had about half the kids in the 4th and 5th grade sign up, and nearly that out on the bus 3 day yesterday.
Nice.
So just fun and great, and I could go on a long time, but I'm not going to. So it's just terrific.
And then lastly is the superintendent's calendar. Last night I had the wonderful experience of spending about an hour and a half, 2 hours at the Wave Robotics open house, and that put in my mind a whole lot of things about the need for STEM programming in the district, and tying that to the opportunities to really grow the Wave Robotics program and support it. The students and volunteers and leaders are most pleased with the cooperation they already have from the school district on the issue, but they're looking forward to more. Wonderful experience, and thanks to many local businesses that donate both equipment, time, and expertise, but most of all, also a wonderful open space in a warehouse facility that provides an opportunity for our students to work on a regular basis together, and they're looking forward to their competition shortly. With that, that completes the report today.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mack. Next, listening session report. Any action items on that?
None whatsoever.
All right. Other reports. Does anyone have any other reports? Kelly?
Education Committee met a week or so ago. We talked about a couple of items, one being alternatives for the 7th grade prison visit. Kristen Walker was there to give us a lot of information about, why we continue to do that, and the advantages that it has for adolescent development. So that we talked a lot about just maybe possibly trying to find a balance in terms of, okay, this is one, outcome, but maybe there's other more inspirational outcomes as well. So trying to find a balance between inspiring and motivating young people versus, in addition to going to the prison. So that was the discussion that we had. Pretty much jail versus success stories. Both messages are needed. Is pretty much what came out of that. Julie Mosier gave us an update on the DPI Common Core standards and graduation requirements, that being 3 years of science, which is coming this way, and she addressed Senate Bill 51. State testing is moving forward, and so getting all our curriculum and everything in line for that. And then we discussed the overall education plan for Oshkosh area schools. Julie also kind of facilitated that discussion as well. And looking at how college, career, and community readiness is impacting the schools, and especially landing on a lot of the school counselors' responsibilities. And looking into other ways to help young people do career exploration as they go through high school. Yeah, that was pretty much it.
All right. Thank you. Any other? Mr. Dito.
Policy and governance met on Tuesday the 18th. You have 4 items, I believe, on our consent agenda tonight for your consideration, which came out of that committee. Can we continue to plow through the WASB updates? Some of these policies that we were dealing with on Tuesday the 18th had not been revised since the late 90s. Policy 369, assistive technology for students. The committee recommends policy be approved. 453.4, medication and treatment. It was also a WASB update. We recommend that be moved as well. 453.42, rule and exhibit, epinephrine, we moved that be moved forward, and 453.7, donation to non-school agency nursing personnel, that was also updated. We recommend that also be moved on this evening.
All right. Allison?
Yep. Facilities and Finance Committee met on February 20th. We talked to Phil Marshall. He came in and gave us an update on where the middle school auditorium is at this point. He contacted Bray, and they have provided an intern to do some work and provide us a post look of what it will look like in the future for no cost. So that was really great news. They will also be going to the Oshkosh Community Foundation to maybe identify donors for further fundraising. They're looking at a cost of about $175,000, so that's the dollar figure. Mr. Marshall also contacted previous administrators to get the background of the murals that are on the walls currently. They like to move those because they don't really belong in the auditorium, and we need to put soundproofing in there. And so they were talking about perhaps putting it in the courtyard area, but they'll have to talk to the city and find out if they can even do that. And if they do put it outside, there will also be some maintenance costs because it's hard on that surface. They would like to raise an additional $70,000 as an endowment to continue with the maintenance so this never happens again at that school. Let's see. He asked our committee to come back to him with options on naming rights, that if we do if we're lucky and fortunate enough to have a big donor or several big donors, what would we do about naming rights? So we're going to come back to that at a future meeting. And right now he's looking at fundraising being completed a year from now, renovations beginning in the summer, June of 2015, and then it will be done by the school year 2015. We had Dave Mako from Schenck come in and review the audit, and we are fully in compliance. Budget variance we did not get to, so we'll do that next time. There's been no change in the Oaklawn spending since last month. We did not talk about TIF funds because we wanted to put that on hold until we have time to review the Southside survey. And then the last thing was Johnston presented capital projects for next year. And we talked briefly about E-Cook, that there's some curb appeal issues there, some weeds and things like that. He said that he would look into it. And he also let us know that there's a beautification group on that side of town that's looking to improve the ball diamond, new fencing, etc. Our next meeting will be on March 20th at 8 a.m. Thanks.
Just on the naming rights.
Yes.
You want to make sure that the policy is...
We reviewed the policy during the meeting. What we were trying to figure out is there a dollar figure that automatically puts you in the running for naming rights? Is it 50%? Is it 100%? Is it, over 10,000? We don't. It isn't in the policy. It's pretty vague. So Sue's going to look into that for us and make sure that, and we're going to look into the history of what we've done in the past.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other committees? No other reports? All right. Seeing none, I will move on to non-agenda related public forum. We have one name on tonight's list, Deb King. If you wish to speak on a non-agenda related item, something that is not on tonight's agenda, please step forward, state your name and address for the record, and limit your comments to 5 minutes.
Deb King, 2798 Clover Street, Oshkosh.
I'm Teresa Mocha. I'm 1235 Fairview Street, Oshkosh.
And I teach elementary art at Franklin School and Lakeside School.
And I'm at Carl Traeger Elementary and South Park Middle.
And I have 2 things I want to address tonight. First thing is the sculptures out at Lakeside School. I wanted to come and thank you and thank Randy Johnson for helping to get those sculptures finished and installed. They are installed. I'm going to be passing out some pictures so you can see what they are. I hope all of you get out there and check them out. They're awesome. The kids are very proud of them. And the second thing, March is Youth Art Month. So we are here to invite you to a gallery opening this Saturday. Art Space Collective Gallery has graciously donated their gallery space for a K-12 art show. It will be up the entire month of March. This Saturday during gallery walk hours, it will be open 6 to 9, and then it will be open the rest of the month of March from March 2nd to March 20th. And I have an invitation I'm going to give you all. I hope to see you all there. We have some awesome artists in our school district, and I would love for you to come out and see their artwork.
Could I just ask one question?
Sure.
Are those sculptures the ones that the sword?
Yeah, that's right. Yes, they are. The PT,
Or is this another group?
the PTO from Lakeside and SOAR donated the funding for that. And we had an awesome artist in residence, Brock Rumor, from down by the Milwaukee area who came up and worked with us on those. So I'm going to pass these out quick. Thank you.
Thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. All right. Next, we will go on to agenda-related public forum. If you have something that you wish to speak about on tonight's agenda, we will ask you to please step forward, state your name and address for the record, and limit your comments to 5 minutes. First on our list this evening is Trevor Davis.
My name is April Davis. We live at 1836 Georgia Street, and I have 2 second graders wanting to talk to you today.
My name is Trevor Davis. I am a second grader at Lakeside Elementary School. I hope you vote yes to using the tax money to build on the addition to my school. A yes vote means I can stay at Lakeside for 4th grade. I enjoy learning at Lakeside. We have an awesome playground. Please vote yes to make Lakeside a school for kindergarteners to 5th graders again.
I am Jacob Bowman. I am in 2nd grade at Lakeside. This is my brother Ethan. He will be in kindergarten next year. You should vote yes so brothers like us can go to school together. Please vote yes. Thank you.
Ethan didn't want to come up.
That's okay.
Oh, it's okay. And I'm a 2nd grade teacher at Lakeside School, and I'd just like to say we'd love to have the opportunity to have everyone back together again. It's been a long time since we've been together as a staff, and it would be really a nice thing to be able to see these guys stay. Since he's my son, it'd be great to have him not have to go to another school. But we did have a son go over to Tipler, and that was a great experience for him as well. But we are really, as a staff, excited about having that chance to be back together so we can have more time to collaborate together, because it has been a long time in coming. We've seen a disconnect between the kindergarten through 3rd grade teachers and the 4th and 5th grade teachers, so we'd like that opportunity again. So thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for coming.
Next on the list is Lisa Carnes.
Hi, my name is Lisa Carnes. I live at 5996 Lake Road here in Oshkosh. I am the literacy resource teacher at Lakeside Green Meadow. I also support 4K teachers. And I'm just asking you also, same message as the boys, to please vote yes to use the money to do the addition at Lakeside. I just have that unique perspective being the support teacher at both places, and kind of what April was saying, the inefficient use of our time is a concern to me. The district is paying me mileage to drive back and forth during the day when I could be meeting with teachers and with kids, which would be a much better use of my time. Same thing with collaboration. You know, we function as a school, even though we're in 2 different places, and so things like working on school improvement. It's just if I do lead one collaboration at Lakeside, I have to do it again at Green Meadow, and so I feel like we could be doing so much more with our time instead of repeating, things like that. And then just also the discussion. We try to build on the shoulders of the previous grade, and I feel like we have a big disconnect in our seamlessness. And so if we were all together, just those cross-grade dialogues would enhance the learning so much. One other thing I'm just thinking of is at Green Meadow, we have a small, we call them a guided reading library, kind of like a book room. And we have readers at all different levels in every grade. And so oftentimes when I'm at Green Meadow, if I might be working with a struggling reader, I think, I have a great book that might hook this kid, but it's over at Lakeside. And so just the resources, putting them all together for all the kids, I just think would be so beneficial. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Third on our list is Carl Lowenstein.
You should roll your eyes like that. Hi, my name is Carl Lowenstein. I live at 50 Lake Street. This is kind of strange to be on this side of the table. Usually I can't see all of you. As you know, well, as I suppose most people know, I was on the board until last July. And I wanted to come and talk a little bit about the budget reconciliation process, which I suppose I'm a glutton for punishment because I stopped serving on the board and I volunteered to take part in the process from the other side. And let me say that it was a gut-wrenching, unpleasant process that we did with really wonderful people. I mean, good-hearted, good-spirited people, and the list that you're looking at tonight is horrible and awful, but I think it's about as good as we could come up with as a team, and the 37 of us, I think, is the total number who are involved in that process. And I think that, what you have before you will make the district worse for everyone. It'll be worse for students, it'll be worse for employees, and I think most importantly, it'll be worse for the community. And so I think that we have to be really clear on that where we're going, is that this is it's a difficult process, and you guys face a hard choice even voting for this. I remember being on the board and saying, I want to vote against it just because it's so bad, right? Whoever wants to approve a list of cuts like this in wherever you sit. Having said that, it was a horrible process. I also want to thank you guys because you've given the community a chance to fix it. Where we stand now, of course, you voted to put a referendum out to the community on April 1st, and I have taken on the role of leading that process. I'm the chair of what we call Support Oshkosh Students, and we are working very hard to make sure that our community understands the importance that it faces now. So we, as a committee, have started working, and I think what the most important thing is there's a solution to this. So you guys are voting on the cuts, but the community can definitely step forward and has an opportunity to solve this problem and make the district even better. I mean, I think we all know, as a community and as a board and as parents, that we provide a fabulous education at a really low cost. This next round of cuts will not make that possible anymore. I mean, our education will be worse than in any surrounding district. The opportunities available to our students will be worse. But passing the referendum, voting yes on April 1st will make us better, right? We can continue to be a great district. We have the package in there. You guys have added, I think, wisely a package that says let's build towards the future. Let's have new technology. We have a really good opportunity here. And so I really came before you and as the chair of our new Support Oshkosh Students Committee to say thank you for that opportunity, and also because I can be on TV, I want to say to the community, we need your help. This is a really important moment for our community, for Oshkosh, for all the surrounding towns, for our students, for everyone who lives in this part of Wisconsin to help our schools. And so, I know we can do it. As a community, I know we value education. As a community, we have done a great job so far, but as a community, we need to step up here in April and make our schools even better instead of let them fall to the wayside. So thank you, board. And I want to, invite everyone to become involved in the process. We have a Facebook page. It's called Support Oshkosh Students. We have a website, www.supportoshkoshstudents.org. We have a Twitter feed at SOS Oshkosh. We have a meeting. In fact, if you actually want to talk to people and not look at the electronic media and come out and help us, and it will be next Tuesday, March 4th at 6:30 at the First Methodist Church on Linwood Street. So all of these are opportunities, obviously, to get involved at this process, but most importantly, keep this vote in your mind and come out and vote yes on April 1st.
What time was that on Tuesday?
It is 6:30.
Okay, thank you.
At the First Methodist Church on Linwood Street.
Thanks, Carl.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thanks, Carl.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on an agenda-related item? If so, please come up and state your name and address for the record. All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to consent resolution agenda. I'd like to pull item number 10 from the consent resolution agenda. Or is there anyone else who wishes to pull anything else on tonight's agenda? All right, seeing none. For the consent agenda, the board has been furnished with background material on each item or has discussed it at a previous meeting. These will be acted upon with one vote without discussion. If a board member wants to discuss any item, it will be pulled out of the consent agenda and will be voted on separately. The board will consider approval of 1. Minutes of regular board meeting on January 29th, 2014. 2. Minutes of special board meeting on February 5th, 2014. 3. Minutes of regular board meeting on February 12th, 2014. 4. Bills payable. 5. Personnel. A. Appointments, resignations, retirement, and salary schedule. 6. Summer school program plan. 7. Student and teacher calendar for the 2014-2015 school year. 8. Recreation gym masonry restoration. 9. Capital improvement project list. 11. Policy 369 assistive technology for students. 12. Updates to policy 453.4 medication and treatment. 13. Policy 453.42 staff administration and epinephrine, right. There we go. Sorry about that. And number 14, updates to policy 453.7, relations with non-school agency / independent contractor nursing personnel.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Saginaw?
Aye.
Saginaw, aye. Wiedenhoff?
Aye.
Wiedenhoff, aye. Dito?
Aye.
Dito, aye. Eliason?
Aye.
Eliason, aye. Garner?
Aye.
Garner, aye. Herzog?
Aye.
Herzog, aye. Lumberger?
Aye.
Lumberger, aye. Motion carried.
Epinephrine, right. Okay. Resolution number 10, be it resolved that the Oshkosh Area School Board, Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education approve proceeding with design and construction planning for an addition to Lakeside Elementary School for the purpose of bringing Green Meadow students to this campus as filed with the Secretary to Board of Education.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion. I guess I would like to start the discussion. I understand what was set out here today, and as I said at the last meeting, I am actually in favor of doing this. I was the one who brought up the possibility of using these TIF funds for it, but I am going to move to postpone the motion to a later date at some point after April. And I guess I'll say April 23rd, unless people want to postpone it to a different date. I think that we don't even have the necessarily the Southside survey back yet. I personally feel that we need more discussion about the scope and how we intend to finance this, if we are planning on financing it prior to actually use of the funds. And so I'm going to move to postpone the motion to April 23rd. Yeah.
Point of order.
Oh, I need a second, yes.
Well, the board president can't make a motion.
Oh.
You can second a motion, but you can't make a motion.
All right, well then I guess I will ask if someone will make a motion to postpone to a later date.
So move.
No, you can't. You have to actually make the motion.
I have to make the motion, okay.
Yes.
I move that we table.
No, you'd be postponing. Tabling
Postpone, okay. I move that we postpone the vote on this motion to, I believe the date is April 30th. Is that
Okay.
correct?
Probably.
Yes.
Is there a second?
You can second.
Oh, I will second the motion.
Can we discuss that?
Yes.
Okay. So from the resolution, it doesn't look like we're looking at spending any money at this point.
Well, we're looking at obviously spending money if we proceed with.
There was no budget figure put in this resolution.
True, but if you're going to proceed forward with design and construction, you are authorizing proceeding with design and construction planning.
So
you
what's
would-
the,
you would
until we know a
certainly-
dollar figure, I'm not sure I know how to vote on this. Are we talking couple grand? Are we talking, what are we talking?
I know we did have approximately $130,000 or $40,000 from the Green Meadow sale that we had talked about using for that purpose of starting the design and looking at the RFP. And that's where I thought we had I'm not sure if it was 130 or 140,000.
About 138,
Okay.
137, 138,000.
And that would give us the money to start on the design without actually moving forward with the construction of it. But it'd give us a step up if we want to move with this in 2015.
I too am in favor of uniting the Green Meadow and the Lakeside children under one roof. That's not the question for me. The question for me, which was brought to me by someone today who lives in Green Meadow and has 2 children, soon to have 3 at Green Meadow, was why would the board be voting on this if you don't have the results of the parent survey? Do we know if they want to add 2 sections of each grade or 3 sections of each grade? Do we know if they want a larger cafeteria? Larger media center? I think until we know more from what the parents and those who live in that attendance area really want, I can understand tabling this until we have that information.
May I speak to, the parents were surveyed, a take-home survey was sent home, which is identical to the community-wide survey. However, the goal that was in mind was to make sure we survey all residents of that attendance area.
Okay.
And that piece, the training is going to be underway to train the callers to get that information. And so the survey is on target to complete that. We know the results of, I heard some number just under 100, about 98, 99 surveys were returned by just sending directly home to parents. But the goal was that we just not sample those who are already in either Lakeside or Green Meadow, but the entire present attendance area. And that process will take a bit more time, and our university folks who are working with us are training parents to do the calling, and that process is up and underway. And I would expect that by hopefully by the middle of April we will have that information.
Okay, thank you.
And what that will more than likely tell us is, should we be planning for a bigger issue than simply a 4 to 6 classroom addition? It could end up telling us that we have another whole issue on our hands that might be a 3-section school that is, in the long run, the potential solution if we recruit back children who are not attending in that area now.
Okay, so if I understand what I think you and Barb are trying to say is, we don't want to recycle work if we don't have to, because that's expensive and it's time-consuming. So we don't do anything until we get the survey results. Is that what you're thinking?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
We've got other things on our plate at the moment. I don't want us to rush into something before we know.
You know what the answer is?
Yeah,
Okay.
we know what we're doing.
Okay.
Mr. Lumber.
Well, my fear is, the Lakeside people have been living in doubt for a long time. Does this, again, create an atmosphere of doubt? And is it what we're going to do? How do we give them reassurances?
I guess I think both Barb and I have stated that we're not against this proposal, as I have stated on more than one occasion. I was the one who suggested using the TIF funds to do this in the first place. I just, I am not looking to postpone this indefinitely. I'm looking to postpone this to a specific date, and then we would move on it and have action. We would simply know more than we do now.
John, I think that we're talking about whether or not we're going to have a 2-section or 3-section, and whether or not we're going to, include a 4K and all of that kind of stuff. And without knowing those answers, rushing it, I'm not sure serves any of us well.
But isn't that what this was supposed to do, was to find those answers?
we just don't have them yet. The results are not in yet. We got to wait. They're training people to give the surveys. We don't have the answers yet. And then if we spend money and time moving forward and planning for what we think is the answer, only to come and find out in 2 months that that was not the answer, that'd be a really bad use of funds.
So Randy, I think the last time we had a workshop on this, we asked you to just begin to figure out whether we needed a 2 or 3 track school, right? How much time do you need?
We were basically given direction to start with an RFP for architectural engineering. And I have sent out a questionnaire to WASBO members asking for any RFPs that are out there that they'll share with us so we're not reinventing the wheel. So I'm waiting for results back from that. And that's the direction we were given the last time at the last board meeting. I had met with architects and builders, and we've discussed both 3 and 4 section. And we're looking at numbers of how many students are at the schools right now between Tipler, the Green Meadow students from Tipler, and also the Lakeside students. And I think that was about 258, 260 students at this time. But then there are potentially other students out there that could be coming to us.
So does this extra time give you the time you need to?
Well, I think I really hope that we at least move forward with the RFP and start looking for architectural engineers, because the longer we wait on that, the longer that's going to take to get that process moved through also.
And I could speak to the fact that that portion is really, we don't get charged for that portion, so we could act on that process and have that underway so that when you come to an April date, that you reconsider moving on this issue, we'd have that process complete.
Okay. So we'd have that in line also, at least.
Any other comments?
I must say I'm somewhat disappointed, but I understand the reasoning behind, we need to have foundation of information. I mean, that was the foundation, is the survey. Boards in the past, Oaklawn comes to mind, didn't listen to the educational community of that particular school and insisted on trying to build a school out on Riff Road or do some other things that was not within what that community wanted. I think we would be remiss if we were to make that same mistake. April 30th, though, I will definitely mark in my calendar and be definitely in attendance for that, to vote yes at that time to move this process forward.
Me too.
Me too.
Provided I'm reelected.
Oh, yeah, that's
Me too.
Any other comments? Please call the roll.
Spalding?
Yes.
Wiedenhoff?
Aye.
Wiedenhoff, aye. Dito?
Aye.
Dito, aye. Eliason?
Aye.
Eliason, aye. Garner?
Aye.
Garner, aye. Herzog?
Aye.
Herzog, aye. Lemberger?
A reluctant yes. Yes.
Lemberger, aye. Saginack?
Yeah, aye.
Saginack, aye. Motion carried.
Resolution number 15. Be resolved that the Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education approve the prioritized budget reconciliation plan to be used by administration to create the 2014-15 district budget as filed with Secretary of the Board of Education.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it has been moved and seconded. I guess I'll start out the conversation by saying that I will not be voting in favor of this the way that it currently stands. I feel that the last 3 items on here, items 7, 8, and 9, are not something that I can support, and I am, I guess, deeply disturbed that we've come up with eliminating middle school electives and adding study halls, which basically warehouses our kids, as the most acceptable alternative instead of changing the secondary school classrooms to a 6 out of 7 from a 5 out of 7. And I am hoping to convince at least 3 of you that this is a a bad move. That we are the elected officials here, and we will take what is given to us by committee, but we are obligated to do what we feel is just and correct when we vote on it. And what we are voting on here is not going to change. We're not going to revisit this issue. If the referendum fails, this is what we're going to implement. And I refuse to implement this. I believe that there are other items on that list that I would support instead. Any other comments?
Well, I seconded the motion because I wanted discussion on this, but as Dr. Lowenstein had stated, this is not a good list. And when I saw and that's no reflection, it's not intended to be a reflection on the hard work that's gone into this by administration and by especially members of the community who have served on this committee. And I understand some people had served on a similar committee a year ago. When I saw the list that we were presented with at the previous board meeting, my reaction was that there would be two results, no matter what was presented for tonight. And one was that we will lose students because we will not be competitive or attractive to many families who want more for their students than what we would be able to offer. And number two, we would continue to lose teachers when we have a strategic plan that calls for us to show respect to our teachers. So in trying to do some preparation for tonight's meeting, I contacted some high school music teachers and asked specifically what would the reduction, or the addition actually, the addition to your load of one more class do to the quality of student learning. And to a person, I heard from 4 people across 2 high schools, and they said it would definitely have a negative effect because they meet with students all day long. They meet with them during what other teachers would consider their prep, when they typically don't meet with students. And they have students early in the morning, they have them after school, and as 1 or 2 of the teachers pointed out, the music program is often the face of the district. When you see the reaction of people across this community to the madrigal singers coming out, it's significant. And that's no small feat for those groups of children, students, to go out and perform 30 to 40 to 50 times over the course of the season. And when you look at this, and I'm trying to look at this from a big picture viewpoint, by reducing music education at the elementary level, cutting it in half, and what we've voted on in terms of some changes at the middle school level, and I've heard from middle school music people about that. They feel that that will set the music program back. It cannot help but have a downward impact on the quality of our high school music. Music, it's not just about me, but I know I get passionate about this because I feel strongly about it. Music touches the soul, and music and the brain. Thank you. And there are lots of studies that show connections between success in mathematics and music. Going back I wasn't around then. Many of you think I might have been, but I wasn't around during the 1940s when there were some very strong music educators who came into this community. People like Mr. Aronson, and I think Mr. Leist might have been of that era, or at least in the 50s. Music has been a strong part of the culture of this community, the culture and the climate of this community. And when you take these components together over the music program, I see that as a problem. I actually met with 5 elementary music teachers on Monday. I asked them about this stipend, and they kind of chuckled at that. They said, well, we only got that about 3 years ago. And they questioned the amount of $5,000 because, as they understood it, they only got $200. Each one got $200. And so they weren't sure how many or where that figure of 5,000 came from, but I feel really torn by this list. And then I read the staff report, point A, the major point. A list of reductions was created by administration, which answered another question that I had before I read this, and that was there must have been some things then that were not on the list. For example, I know as a board we've discussed the population of ALPS and the attempt to get more students to attend, but I don't see ALPS anywhere on here. I'm not attacking ALPS, but when you look at the value added and you look at the number of students served, that does raise questions. So with that, I'll be quiet. Let some others speak.
Steve?
I guess I'd add in really to second Mr. Wiedenhoff's comments largely. And I want to be careful that the work of this committee, I think the process was good right in the second year running. I couldn't have more respect for Dr. Lowenstein, who led the charge. So it's in no way a slight to the committee or to Carl. So I think it would be really bad for our organization to disrespect the work of that committee. But I would say what would be disastrous is to, as cited, really whack the educational opportunities of our students. And I think sometimes in life we have failed searches or a second run at something or a second opinion. I think this might be a case. I too would have a hard time supporting the list as is.
I guess, yeah, one of the big, when I look at number 9, the idea that we would add study halls for no other reason than we don't have the money. I mean, basically what we're saying is, okay, well, we don't have the money to actually teach these kids something, so we're just going to put them in a study hall. And that it goes against everything that I came to the board, every reason I came to the board, and only allow high school students to take 6 credits. The idea that we're going to limit their education and limit their possibilities rather than choose some other things which admittedly are not great by any means. I was the first to state or not the first, but the first to admit that Kaukauna has gone 6 out of 7, and they want to switch back to 5 out of 7. But if it's a choice between these and that, there's no way I would support this, and I would support that.
I think listening to your thoughts, one thing that I worry about is that if we ask some committee or group of people to go at this again, that's kind of I'm not sure that's what we want to do, because I think that this is a terrible list of options, and I think that that's really all there is right now. So going at it again, taking another whack at it, I'm not sure we're going to get anything different or something that may be more palatable than this. But I don't know that. That's just my gut reaction to what you said. And then my reaction to what Matt was saying is if the first job of this school district is to educate kids, then by placing them in rooms and calling them study halls and limiting how many credits they get to take, seems to me like exactly opposite of providing education. It really is just putting them in rooms. And if that's the case, then maybe we change the school day. Maybe we, I don't know. There's other ways to get at that. Maybe decrease teachers' hours or something like that. Maybe, but to just place kids in rooms where they receive no educational input or any program whatsoever, to me is not palatable. And I have a real problem with number 9. For me, we're talking $1 million just in number 9, which is almost half. So what is the other thing on this list that we could switch it with? Because I don't want to come in here and say, hey, I hate this list
The
I just
6-7.
hate it.
The
I'm not going to fix it.
The 6-7
Well-
would be 1.7.
So the only other thing that we really have that is, has a big lever is the 6 out of 7. And let me finish my thought. And I sat through every single person's protest last year. I remember them clearly. I realize that this is going to hurt education. But I would rather have a mediocre 6 out of 7 than nothing for an extra study hall.
Right.
I guess that's kind of where I'm at right now, just voicing my opinion.
Well, and I guess if we're talking about how to create this list and not sending it back to committee, I would say that there are two choices, and one would be to alter it tonight through amendment to the resolution, and that would be largely from the list or completely from the list that we have, unless someone comes up with something that I'm not thinking of. And the other would be that if you have something specific that you wanted to discuss as an option, something that you specifically wanted to use as an alternative, to then postpone this and discuss that alternative and do it at a later date.
We cannot postpone this. Absolutely not.
No.
Because we owe that to our community with this referendum in 36 days to allow them to see what is going to happen. We cannot postpone this. If we change it, we change it tonight. My opinion.
I would certainly echo that.
If we go with the 1.7, which I think is the 6-7 thing, then we just have to fill in. and that
Actually,
would-
we'd be at 2.5. If we got rid of 7, 8, and 9, and we just did the 1.7 instead, that would be about the 2.5 total.
Right. None of it's good, we know
No,
that.
it's awful.
But what I appreciate about what Allison said is it still keeps the same the curriculum somewhat in place. I know that it's dicey, but it doesn't put kids in study halls, and it doesn't reduce music, and it kind of keeps things at least moving the way they are for the kids in terms of what they're taking.
Can anybody speak to the rationale of why this list was developed?
Well, if you...
On the spot.
I mean, obviously, there was some rationale behind what went on here. I'd like to hear it.
I'll begin with you had received the comprehensive list before, and we worked through a prioritization process, facilitating with the group on the final night to identify the ranking order. This is not the list that was exactly presented to the group. It was modified by the group and determined that these were the items that were in the priority order and by having every member in attendance participate in the process to identify that original group included 20 staff members and 22 citizen members of the committee, and they worked through the prioritization in the order, and they put it in the order of restoration as well. Just like last year, they ranked the issues that should be first of all restored, lowest on the list. So if we work back up, 9, 8, 7, 6 would be the order of restoration, because they ranked and prioritized them in that order. So with that, I'm going to turn to Sue, Kim, and Julie, who are prepared to respond. Sue, in dealing with data facts and actually being the collector of the data as turned into Sue, who then recorded all the inputs we received from the committee members. And Julie and Kim had worked through the process as facilitators and leaders through that discussion with the group that evening.
Normally, when we create these lists, if I recall, going back even 6 years, we always try to sort of prioritize based on the least amount of impact that it would have on the kids. I mean, we always sort of privilege the kids in this, right? So tell me about the rationale. Was that what was going on?
Well, I think that, they obviously, number 9 was their least, that would be the last thing that they would cut from this list. But because it's such a huge chunk, you take that off. Other than the teachers teaching 6 out of 7, there aren't a whole lot of things left on this list that would equate to that.
And I would like to comment on the history of the district has been really trimming around the edges for years. We've run out of edges. That's really the nightmare we're facing, is the fact that the creative choices of, that's why I ask you and what you approved in January of moving to referendum was a critical piece in making that decision, because we have exhausted all the choices. There are no good choices on this list.
So there's no way to protect the kids anymore.
No, unless you can come up with something creative, there is nothing that we could think of. When you go back over, revenue limits came in place in 92 and 93. We keep saying the last 7 years we've cut $16 million, but it goes back even further than that. And you look at some of the cuts, and we've cut custodians, we've cut clerical, we've cut administration, we've increased class sizes. Our supplies and materials are about as down as low as they can. You have cut, as a district, anything around the fringes that you can cut.
It's interesting, we were at a CISA meeting just last week, and somebody said, we have to actually look at maybe cutting the paras that are working in our kindergarten classrooms. I'm going, well, we've made cuts like that 10 years ago. So people are first starting to make the cuts that we made over 10 years ago. We're just in a different spot.
And one of the issues that we struggle most with is the fact that from this list, we had a discussion because of the size of age of our facilities. One of the solutions is frequently class size increases. However, the physical spaces in our classrooms, we have relatively decent class size, but it's a limiter of the size, the square footage of our classrooms. Because that is an option many school districts with a set of larger classrooms can go to. And that, frankly, you can read many different studies about the impact of class size, and that is a solution we did explore. But it's not here because it becomes physically impossible, because we have many classrooms below the 960 or 980 square foot standard that simply would not allow the spaces to fit furniture. And yes, clearly, if we had students stand through class, they could do that. But we're not going to do that, and that's really the issue that we have is we don't have the physical spaces to simply increase class size, which, if done proportionally to elementary, middle, and high school, if there was room for that adjusted class size. So, because as I look at our data, our class sizes are really quite decent, but they don't. But we just don't have the physical facility to alter them, and that becomes a limiter of choice.
And I've seen those kinds of problems firsthand with the district to the north of us, where the room was so crowded that the teacher couldn't get from one side of the room to the other side of the room without going out the back door, down the hallway, and coming in the other back door. They couldn't get across the room.
Sure.
And that's a safety issue. That's a science classroom. Right. That's a safety issue that really concerned me.
I was in one of our tech ed rooms recently, and the teacher was explaining to me that he typically has 2 sections of 2 different classes in that room, so that the number of students he serves in the class period is raised. It's a big facility. It's a big room to start with, and you have safety issues because you can't see around the corners, and you can't. And they're using heavy-duty equipment that could do nasty things to fingers and whatnot. But there are huge safety issues in a situation like that. So it goes both ways. You have such a big space, and you put too many children in there, you can't adequately supervise, or you have a small space and you don't have enough space for the number of students. The science rooms over at Tipler would come to mind. Those are relatively small classroom spaces, and the layout in those rooms also precludes putting many students in there. But again, a safety issue comes up in science classrooms.
Yeah, we did explore, because one of the more logical ways of of fixing budgets has always been kind of edging up class size. And we did explore that, and it's simply a dead end that we could not pursue because we couldn't safely do it and even create that habitat that would be so tight in the classrooms.
No, just kind of have one more question, Steve, and then when we're looking at the two big savings options. One is the increased study halls, and the other is going from 5 to 6. What we're really talking about is the savings really comes from laying off teachers, right?
Correct.
Or
It's the only
not
place it could
replacing retiring teachers is probably more likely what would happen.
Assuming the retirements are in the areas where you're reducing.
Yeah, I understand that. You know, there's some flexibility, but not unlimited flexibility in moving people around. So I guess my question is, which of those two options hurts our staff less? I mean, both of them are going to hurt the students, but which hurts the staff less?
We
In
spent a
terms
great
of-
deal of time talking about the 6 out of 7, and I think the reason it fell further down on the list is they were able to show that high schools that have gone to 6 out of 7 to save money have reversed it and gone back to 5 out of 7. We just think the attrition of our teachers leaving because of having to teach 6 out of 7 will be great, and that's also the time when they work with students. So that was just some of the rationale as to why that ended up being ranked further down the list by the committee team.
In addition to that, we are talking about retention of our teachers also, and so we would anticipate there being turnover, and so as soon as we have to hire again, just like we did this past school year, there's going to be additional costs in professional development, getting all of our new staff members up to speed. And, you know, as Barb said, one of our priority areas is valuing and retaining our high-quality teachers. So that was a big discussion within our budget reconciliation team. All of these conversations, when we visited each of those groups and we were facilitating, none of these were easy conversations. And everything that you're talking about, they had deep discussions about. And even after they left, and we would get email questions and things would come back because they were mulling over these same exact things. So this is not easy, and there are no good answers. The other piece about this is on the budget reconciliation list. We also looked at what can we really do and do with fidelity and reasonably do, pending the outcome of the referendum. What can we actually implement coming in the fall and truly commit to saying that we can do that? There were some things on there. For example, we were asked to look at a different schedule, and I think we talked about that at the board workshop, looking at a different schedule for high school or secondary students, and being able to implement that in the time from April to the start of the school year would be a Herculean task. So what can we actually implement? That was also part of it. So there was pieces in there, if you look at the full list, that says proposed and then research, because some of it we just may not be able to do within that time frame.
Steve?
Well, talking about raising class sizes, we're apparently in agreement that we will close a middle school, which will send kids into other schools, which will raise class sizes anyway.
No, we would lift the teachers in the class in the second will not raise class size. The savings comes out of the administrative overhead in a school. We would maintain the same class sizes, simply lifting full sections. When you move and close a school, that's not a class size increase. That's lifting the teachers. It preserves the teachers' jobs, and it moves them to spaces in other buildings that exist that can accommodate those classrooms.
Okay.
Although actually having the other middle schools
They're going to have
at
more
higher,
kids in them.
right, at a higher
They'll have-
population,
right.
would allow them to actually disperse the kids probably in
More
a
evenly.
more even manner.
Didn't we just renew the contracts of all of our middle school principals?
But we have flexibility in a vacancy that is adjustable with principal licenses.
Okay,
Yeah. So that is not an entrapment.
okay, thank you.
My other thought on this is, granted, it would be a Herculean task. The changing of, I guess, for me, the 4x4 block, I realize that this would be a complete shift But I have real issues with those last three. I mean, our community, when they look at, even without the last three, closing a middle school, reducing athletics by 10%, these are things that are not going to be palatable to our community, I don't think, anyway. And nothing on this list will be. I'm not a gambling guy, and that's my problem, is that if this referendum doesn't pass, we have to do these things, and that I have the issue with, especially, as Dr. Herzog so eloquently said, about what music does and art in general. And my mother teaching me the difference between Monet and Manet when I was about 8. So I guess I would be more in favor of the research on the 4x4, which is also 1.7. I realize it's a Herculean task. I'm just saying from my heart. I also read. I have no idea what they're talking about, but Sheboygan is looking at going to some sort of 28, 15-minute pod time things next year, and some radical. I have no idea what they're talking about.
They're slicing and dicing time. Anyway, there's all kinds of names for it, so skinnies, flex, mods, but basically they're slicing and dicing all the different times to make scheduling as flexible as possible. I think we need to keep in mind that the 7-period day is in place in a lot of different districts around the country because it is the most efficient and the most cost-effective way of delivering secondary education. That's one thing. The other thing about the 4x4 block is it's absolutely doable, but you're going to have to remember that when you do a 4x4 block, you are taking, let's say, for example, algebra, which is our 9th grade math course. When you go to a 4x4 block, you are teaching algebra you're taking that and you're condensing it down into one semester. And so right now, currently, we have all of our curriculum set up to be spread out through a year and not to be semesterized like that in a true 4x4. And that's what I mean by Herculean event. So can we get teachers ramped up to instruct in a 90-minute block? But we would also be talking about all the curriculum pieces that go along with it. That's the part that, as the Director of Curriculum and Assessment, that I'm concerned about is would we be prepared curriculum-wise to be able to deliver that in a quality fashion by the beginning of the year. That's my concern. Can we set up minutes and times and put a schedule together? Absolutely. But then my concern is do we have enough time to ramp up the curriculum and get teachers ready to go for that 4x4? That doesn't mean that out in the future that could be a good option. So that's where the research is.
For the 4x4, is there going to be? What do teachers think of the 4x4 schedule? In other words, we know how teachers feel about the 6 out of 7. We know how our students are going to. We know that there will be no educational offering during a study hall. So what about the 4x4? How does that affect teachers and students?
Going back to that's why we need a little bit of research. The last time that we actually looked at either a 4x4, an AB block schedule, skinnies, mods, etc., was when we had the high school restructuring grant in the 2005-2006 era, and we spent up to like 18 months researching different scheduling options. And at the time, the two high schools had discussed that they wanted to go to a block schedule, had an advisory period, had other things built in. But at the time, the way the teacher contract, the collective bargaining unit was written, or the bargaining agreement was written, and then placing that or overlaying that over the top of the high school, the proposed high school schedule, it would have been an increase of, I want to say at the time it was like 1.11 million, I believe it was at the time, because we would be increasing that much staff. So this would be reintroducing that, but instead of having the 5 out of 7 periods, or like the equivalent of what the collective bargaining agreement was at the time, this would be accomplishing the same thing. But once again, to get to that point where we were looking at making that drastic of a change in a structure and a master schedule at our two high schools, we were up to 18 months of research before we got to the point where we brought that proposal to the board, and then actually at that time it was a no-go because of where we were. But once again, it took 18 months to get to that point when it came with the research.
Do we think, well, we've got the 1.7 earmarked on that one. That's what we think,
Correct.
you know. Okay, so, and
that
that's a
would
big,
be,
you
and
know, it's-
1.7 would be that would be the 612 piece of it. That wouldn't just be high school, I believe.
Okay. Do we think that teachers will leave if this happens?
I think teachers would leave. That's my
All right.
opinion.
Thanks.
4x4 also has additional collaboration time and prep time built in, does it not?
It, if you look at it as that, instead of having a 50-minute class period, there would be 190 minute per day, instead of, if you look at it, a 50-minute or 100 minutes per day. It could be, as in the budget reconciliation teams, I believe they said it may be more palatable, was a term that they used.
But it only saves, it's my understanding that a 4x5 only saves money if you don't let students take all 4 sections. So in a 4x4 block, it means that they have 4 classes a day, 190 minutes a section. It actually costs more to do that kind of schedule unless you limit students to only taking 3 out of 4 periods. So every student has to have
So it's
a
the
4.
same as number 8, where we can
Yes,
only take
yes.
6.
Right. You still need to have, students would still be taking no more than 7 credits per day. I mean, you're going to have to look at that, because the other conversation within that 612 restructuring was raising graduation requirements, because with a 4x4, students have the potential of taking 8 credits per year. And so as soon as you add more credits, you have to think about the staffing that's going to incur with students taking additional credits. So there still would be limits on credits for students.
I have taught in the old days, this is new.
Right.
In a block schedule, and I can tell you that it's going to be a tremendous amount of work for teachers to reorganize their courses. Tremendous amount of work. And yeah, I think some teachers, if they have an opportunity to leave, they probably would. And we may lose teachers.
And once again, it's not to say it can't be done. It can be done, but we're talking within that time frame, the planning and preparation that needs to go into it. And it's also kind of funny, because my master's thesis or paper was on alternative scheduling and block scheduling and the impact on instruction. And the finding and the meta study that I did was about the number of minutes or the number of instructional minutes. For a block of time or for a class period don't matter. It's what you actually do within that time. So we would really be, in this way, changing the schedule to make it easier, more efficient, etc., for the master schedule and for staffing. Is that really why we want to make a major schedule change?
If we look at number 9, eliminating the middle school electives in Family and Consumer Science and Tech Ed, and add study halls 1 full study period per grade level, what would be the maximum number of study halls that a student might participate in each of those grade levels, given the other?
Are we talking in middle school?
Middle school, yes.
In middle school, currently, right now, we do not have students scheduled for study hall or directed study. That is not an option when they schedule.
Okay.
Study hall or directed study or focused study hall, whatever it's called, students that are in need of that extra time, in need of extra assistance, reteaching, pre-teaching, those types of things, may have a period in their schedule for that. But the majority of our students in middle school right now do not take a study hall.
But
And they're not scheduled for it.
They do have a period in the day where they can study, because, I mean, my daughter has the last period of the day at Carl Traeger, and it's homeroom, but it's
home based. It's 15
Right.
minutes. It's 15 minutes.
Right.
And that's either home based. Each middle school calls it something different, perhaps, and that would be either advisory or home based. And so some of our middle schools have that 15 minutes, and they call that morning meeting or advisory. And I believe Traeger, and I want to say, what's the other middle school that has it at that? Is there just Traeger right now? Just Traeger right now has it at the end of the day. And there was reasonings behind that. Some students need check-in and check-out. And so for some students, they placed that at the end of the day to make sure students had the things that they needed before they went home. There's different reasonings behind each of the middle schools. But that's 15 minutes, and that's built into the middle school day.
right. And it's basically 15 minutes that she sits and does homework before she comes home. John?
My experience over the years is that You know, you trust the process and you trust the people. You guys are excellent people. I think you had an excellent process. I think we ought to trust it. That's my instinct. Earlier tonight, I voted against my instinct, and I'm already starting to regret it. I'm not going to vote against it this time. I think you got I can't call it a good list, but I think you've got a good rationale for the list.
To come back to a point Mr. Dito made, just for clarification, you shared that the voters need to know when going to referendum what's on the table, right? And who would disagree with that? I agree. However, these are exceptional times, right? Is this an exceptional list, or is this an exceptional duress that we're under financially in the event of non-passage? So I'm just, I ponder whether we can simply sort of whack something together here as an alternative, or if it really needs more. Again, I don't know exactly what the process is, and I'm inclined to agree with you, Ms. Garner, that a second run at a committee, again, in extreme times, may not make sense. We might be at sort of the end of a viable process for committees when we're up against these sorts of choices, that the whole system sort of breaks down. But it feels like, the things we talked about tonight really need more thorough vetting, and though it would be ideal to have the contrast at referendum time, we may not be in that position, is what I would pose.
I would not recommend, I think we will destroy any chances of referendum if we're not factual. You cannot do that to the
specific.
Yeah. We tried to time this. We used an intensive process to get to this stage, and a thoughtful process. This was lots of engagement, and the biggest regret I have for the school district is that this was an issue that increasing revenue is 10 years ago. We should have been starting this. We are now at the cliff, and the cliff produces this kind of nonsense. And we then have to declare that the cliff is here, and we have to deal with it, because that is the reality that we've exhausted, and we have shaken every tree and every rafter trying to say what could fall through this that we could deal with. We've looked at every end, and again, we also are limited by the fact that we need to put only things on here that we can legally live without, as opposed to the core of what we offer and what's legally required by the state of Wisconsin is not on this list, and that's a shame. But we can't undo what 10, 12, 14 years ago should have been a progress towards making sure we hold ourselves harmless at this point in time. But as I frequently say, we can only play the cards we're dealt, and this is what we're stuck with as we went through a process that thoroughly searched every possibility. The reality is that changing that number, changing the reversing and adding, going to 7 teaching, or adding another teaching hour is a possibility. I know that Julie is absolutely correct on our losing teachers as a result of that. That will increase that outflow. That is certainly a piece to this. But again, as we did last year with the budget reconciliation, we work through a process. We planfully approach it. We consult with the community, and we work to get to an end that none of it is good. But we assembled the best available data with a good set of minds to try to answer the questions.
Steve, Dito?
I guess, Mr. Eliason, what I was referring to with the community, and yes, it would be nice to have more time, and it would certainly be nice to vet different ideas, different creative ideas, etc., and come up with some solution to this. My issue with it is, as being a long-term community member, is that come April 2nd or April 3rd, when the newspaper starts putting out what's being cut, even if we don't have a complete list together, I don't think that it's fair to the community to all of a sudden have that information after the fact. I think they need to have it before the fact, the same way that we always try to have the most data that we can in front of us to make informed decisions. And I think that's what we owe our community, is that if they don't see fit to move forward with this referendum, these things will happen. And I think that is our responsibility to give them that data. Otherwise, if they find out about it a week before, 2 days before, that's not enough time. They need more time. We need more time.
Ms. Sayanek?
Yeah, and we're already getting emails from people who want to know. They want to know exactly the detailed list, and I do believe we owe them that. And the community put this together. And so I even though this has given me time to kind of put this together in my own mind, I think the community put this together. This is what we go with.
I just want to kind of recap what I think I heard tonight, just make sure I understood. All right, so I heard you say that this is a prioritized list. So maybe the intention of 7, 8, and 9 was that we wouldn't have to do the 1.7, 6 out of 7, or 4 by 4. That maybe we could just do maybe number 7 and hopefully not have to do 8 and 9, something like that. That was part of this rationale. And instead of having a number 7 that is this big, gigantic, shovel, then instead we broke it up into 3 smaller bite-sized pieces.
Correct.
Okay. So, while these 3 last items are awful, and they risk losing students, which decreases our revenues, going to 4 by 4 or 6 out of 7 would increase our loss of teachers, which would increase our expenses because we would have to hire and train all new people. And if I were to pretend like these weren't people, but that these were widgets, that 10 students are worth about the same as a teacher, about. Just if we were talking in numbers, kids are worth about, I don't know, $7,000 to our district in revenues, and teachers are about 50, 60, 70. If I'm talking widgets, and I'm not talking widgets, but I'm just saying that what can we risk more financially if we only care about the books and we only care about remaining solvent, which is, we're on the brink of bankruptcy. We are hemorrhaging cash. We have no money. And so we're saying, okay, we're advocates for kids because they can't advocate for themselves. We're not here for the benefit of the teachers or the administrators. We're here for the benefit of children. And yet, if we lose all these teachers, our expenses are going to go up. And those expenses are a lot bigger per teacher than they are in revenues per student.
I guess before I would do 7, 8, or 9, if we're really in this kind of drastic situation where we're talking about warehousing kids for the day, I would be looking at other drastic, very drastic things. I would be looking at Mr. Eliason's suggestion that we, modify how we actually hire and contract with teachers, to be, as you are, a contract employee, or I'd be looking at totally, something drastic like totally eliminating our extracurriculars rather than eliminating the actual. Emma was right. Emma sat here 2 weeks ago and said, before I would do these things, before I would cut these pieces of our curriculum, I'd be looking at cutting our extracurriculars. And I can't agree with her more. If we're coming down to this, I guess I'm not willing to gamble with it. Yeah, if it turns out that we had the extra money, we could restore these things. But if we can't, we're not going to.
Right.
This is what we're going to do, and I'm not willing to do this. This is drastic. It's not what we should be. It's certainly not what any of us came on the board to do. And if we have to make moves like this, I'll look at this list again, and I'll certainly come up with other items that I'm willing to do. rather than, there are items that are on the additional items list that I would be willing to consider. I'm not seeing these 3 items as more important, or excuse me, as more reasonable than other possibilities, which, as I said, haven't even necessarily been considered. We're talking about cutting 10% from athletics, and that's going to be huge for them. In fact, I noted we have something in our packets tonight regarding it. But if we're coming down to a situation where we are putting somebody in a room for an hour, that's pretty drastic, and I'm not willing to do that to our kids.
Ask for another point of clarification. I don't quite maybe to Sue. While I understand that, and I'm not advocating precipitating a turnover of teaching staff, but should it come to that, we know there will be professional development costs associated with new hires and getting them up to speed. But isn't there do we have an absolute economic analysis on the? I don't mean numbers or projected numbers, but isn't it true that we might well bring in people at a lower salary basis point, and then one has to add on professional development, or is that not the case, or is it impossible to project?
Well, it depends upon where the vacancies are, and I think something you have to consider is if you go to the 6 out of 7 at the high school, and I'm not saying that's one better or another, but to consider is we'd be losing high school teachers then. And if you're trying to find a high school science teacher or a high school tech ed teacher or a high school physics teacher, those people are going to come with a price tag.
Yeah,
and it's a supply and demand. I mean, and I don't want to say that I don't value elementary teachers at all, but there's a lot of them, and you can get more of them at an entry level price. But again, if you're looking at a high school science or high school, advanced math, those people are going to come with a price tag.
Special ed, ESL too.
So it could well be the same salary basis point plus additional.
Right. So there could be savings depending upon the position. I mean, if it's a general social studies high school position, you could probably get that at an entry level. But it's all supply and demand, so it's going to depend upon which positions you are looking for.
And we do need to recognize the fact that a new beginning teacher is not the same as the quality teachers we have.
Absolutely.
Because we haven't talked at all about quality. If we lose teachers, or there is that kind of turnover, we have diminished what has been successful in the school district, and that is the nightmare.
I think we've had too much turnover already. I mean, at 100 and some. I mean, we're absorbing that, but I don't want to we can't continue that rate. Then we would really feel the impact.
I would entertain a motion, since I can't make one myself, to modify this list in some manner that we have discussed this evening.
Do you have any suggestions?
Well, I guess my first suggestion would be 6 out of 7.
I'm sorry?
6 out of
6
7.
out of 7.
6 out of 7.
I would move to that effect, although it's been so long I might need a little help with language. But I would move
Modify wording of the motion. I move to amend the motion by.
I would move to amend the motion by substituting 7, 8, 9 with the 6 out of 7 framework.
We have somebody from the community that would also like to speak tonight, and she was on our budget reconciliation.
I'm just wondering, when we were in the budget reconciliation, we were given a lot of comparables for districts around us. And I heard somebody say that they feel like we're cheating our students. If we don't get this referendum passed, we are cheating our students because it shouldn't have happened to begin with. Okay? They're already getting cheated. Districts around us are spending so much more on their kids than we are. They are already getting cheated. And you guys have to understand that. I'm a parent. I graduated from Oshkosh School District. I love it here. But not only will you lose your students, your property values are going to go down, and your parents are going to move out. So So you're not talking just students or teachers. You're talking all of it. And I just want you to understand that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
I'll second for the purpose of discussion.
Further discussion? The motion on the table is to replace numbers 7, 8, and 9 with a move to 6 periods out of 7. All right, seeing no discussion.
I had to think about that. If we do number 7, changing art and music to semester classes only, my prediction would be we would lose elementary teachers. Elementary teachers today are not prepared like they were 30 or 40 years ago, where the expectation was that every elementary teacher knew how to play the piano and or the guitar, and at least could lead music within the classroom setting. That's not the case today. I've found very few who have those skills anymore. So if we were to adopt 7, we would lose some of our very best elementary teachers. If we go with period 6 periods out of 7, we'll lose secondary teachers. Over the years, I've had conversation with at least one of our very strong social studies teachers at the secondary level who came to education as a second career. And she frequently has taught at least 3 to 4 different preps within the same semester. So expecting an individual like that to take on potentially still another prep, another subject, I think would be more than many secondary teachers would want to do. The same thing could happen in science, where you have now an extra section here and there. So again, I want to say that I respect the work of the committee that put this list together. But as Dr. Lowenstein had said, a solution to all of this is to pass the referendum on April 1st, stop the bleeding, stop what I see as the erosion of options for our students, elementary, middle, and high school. I think we've seen some erosion in terms of modern language over the last 5 years at the middle level. The middle school music people tell me that they have fears over the implementation of some changes that we voted on for next year in music. And I know it's not just about music and art, but those do play a significant role in the education of our kids. We've got artwork in here. We just heard from 2 art teachers about Gallery Walk and inviting all of us to attend that. I just attended an opera for the young section today at one of our elementary schools, and those kids were so engaged with those actors and the actress. And they were so excited when they heard what next year's opera for the young would be. They could hardly wait. So those do have an impact, and if my memory serves me correctly, among the core areas listed in NCLB, music has been defined as one of the core areas. So it's one, and I believe foreign language has been as well. We used to have 2 very viable 2-way exchange programs with high schools in Germany. We're down to 1. It's a long-lasting program. It goes back to about 1989. But we continue to erode options for students. And that doesn't make us stronger as a school system. It doesn't make us stronger as a community. And every one of us in the community has a stake in how well our children are educated. And yes, it affects property values, and it affects the entertainment that is, so to speak, that's provided on typically Tuesday nights, Thursday nights, Friday nights, Saturday nights, called wrestling tournaments and basketball games and baseball games and forensics and concerts. And there are many people who will continue to attend those long after their children have graduated or left the school system. So I'm deeply troubled by the position that we are in, and I certainly hope that we find a way out from under this, because I think that, again, thanking the committee for the work that they've put in on this, we have a very challenging task which could well affect this school district for years to come, and from which it will be very difficult to pull ourselves out of the abyss.
Steve?
I respect what you're saying there, absolutely. Part of the problem here, quite frankly, and make no mistake about this, since 2011 with Act 10, our inability to exceed the levy cap was enacted down in Madison. This has not allowed us to catch up. And now the naysayers against this referendum, and there will be many, two come to mind, that they want to hit us again with this. Now we have to go to referendum. We are not able to just exceed the levy cap. Otherwise, we would correct this problem. We would have corrected this problem last year, and we would have corrected this problem the year before, but we are not able to now. That being said, hearing what the federal government is doing with the USDA now about corporate sponsorships, I don't know if anybody's heard about this, but apparently there will be no junk food in any school as far as sponsorships. So the idea of Webster Stanley in the auditorium, if a Coca-Cola or a Pepsi or something were to sit there and do Webster Stanley, would not be allowable. They're now going to consider destroying the work that we've done, the administrators have done, and we have voted on repeatedly for the last 2 years when they enacted a law accepting the Common Core standards. And now the hundreds of thousands of dollars that we have spent on that, which should be in here, is going to be thrown out the window. Yes, I am pontificating.
Actually, I was going to ask if you could relate it back to the budget reconciliation.
My point is, on all of this, I will just stop talking. I will accept what the Budget Reconciliation Committee has come up with. Because as painful as this is where we are at. We need to pass this referendum.
John?
I think, it's it's a little bit. Well, it's more than a little bit. It's terrifying to be in a school board right now, because if the referendum does not pass, we're going to be responsible for this mess. And it's also frustrating to be in the school board right now because we are not responsible for this mess. It goes back 10, 20 years. But here we are. And somebody has to put on their big boy or big girl pants and do this. And I'm going to go back to what I said before. We've got good people, trust the people. It was a good process, trust the process. I'm going to vote no on this amendment.
I'm sorry to hear that. I guess I can't even understand it.
Because Matt, we've got to trust the people and we've got to trust the process.
Look,
we can't second guess.
Forget about trust, okay? If April comes along and you don't get your way, this is what you have to enact.
I just said that. It's terrifying.
And I'm not willing to enact this. This is not something that I am willing to do on April 9th. When is the
April 2nd?
2nd. So, but I mean, our next board meeting is April 9th. Is that
Then vote yes on the amendment. But that's how we do it. And we do the majority. And then we all unite. That's how school boards work.
Okay, I mean, you're right. We're drawing to a close here. We're basically saying that the same thing's over again. I confess to being at a loss as to the reasoning behind these three over a 6 out of 7. I don't see that these are more palatable, or that these are things that we as a board would enact when we have other choices that are in our midst. Anyone else have anything to say? No, this is the amendment we're on.
Steve? Just very briefly to wrap up, because I agree we're drawing to a close. It's not inconsistent or incompatible to think to respect the committee and the work of the committee and to come to a different conclusion. And I'm not suggesting you were, Dr. Lundberger. I'm just saying I'm thankful for the work, and ultimately we ran or serve or are engaged as we see the world and bring along constituency and advocate for certain positions, and I suppose that's the point we're at. Thank you for your contribution to this whole discussion.
And my not supporting the amendment has nothing to do with me thinking this is better, because I'm a parent of middle school kids, and I've got a middle schooler coming down the pike, and the thought of them not being able to take tech ed, or because when you get to high school and you haven't had tech ed in middle school, you don't even know what it is, or FAC. I mean, it's just, for me, the respect of the committee we asked to do the work. And like was just stated, if some miraculous way we can put some of the pieces back, it's easier to do that than try to come up with 1.7 million. We'd never be able to come up with that, to put that back. But we might be able to come up with chunks to put some of 7, 8, and 9 back. But we'd never get 1.7
But
back.
if you don't feel this is better,
I don't.
I'm at a loss as to why you wouldn't want to replace it.
I just said.
But
because
but
you never
that's
can put
that's
back.
a gamble. You don't.
It's a gamble no matter what. It's a gamble no matter what. And a mass exodus at the high school level, for me, there's the hope that we could put some of it back, but you can't put 1.7 back. And that would be much more long-lasting than maybe being able to put some of the other pieces back. So that's just where I'm at. I mean, I'm struggling as a parent right now. And maybe, look, what are families going to struggle with more, a 6, 7, or this list? I don't know.
I think I think this list over the 6, 7 will cause an out-migration of students.
And you don't think the 6, 7 will?
I don't know, but I would doubt that it would be as severe. That's my guess. Any other comments? Allison?
Okay, I hate to math you guys again, but
No, that's what we really.
I have to, this is the only way I can do this. I'm sorry, so bear with me. But if we pass a 6 out of 7 and we are gambling that that's the 1.7 million, we lose 25 teachers and we're done. We just ate up all that savings. That's what the 1.7 is worth. 25 teachers, 30 teachers, something like that.
Can you extrapolate a little bit on that?
If we pay teachers, I just used $70,000 for health benefits and everything. I just pulled a number out of the air. It's relatively close. 70,000 times 25 is about 1.7 million, something like that. And we lost 100 teachers this year that we've had to replace. It probably wouldn't cost us the 1.7 if we lost 25 teachers, but that's what it's worth. It's worth 25 teachers. That's not enough. For me to tolerate that over these, they're both awful. I don't think either is better. No. I don't. But I see that one is a surefire way of pushing. We haven't even done this yet, and we lost 100 teachers. And I get that when we do this, we're going to lose students. We're losing over 100 students too. We have a mass exodus, and we have had for this is the 5th year in a row. I am very sensitive to this issue. This is what I ran on, and I see this number getting worse and worse and worse every single year. I get it, but I think if we lose teachers, we're dead. We can't save this thing. So I guess while I always will advocate for children, and while I have children in the system, and I'm not going to pull them out of public school, I'm going to ride this thing out. I want this to work. I believe in public school. I also believe that if we allow teachers to leave, we as an institution, as you were saying, we failed. Teachers aren't a commodity. They aren't, the math that I'm doing. They're not. It's the way I have to think about this, so.
I guess I don't think your students are the math that you're
Students are $7,000 a pop.
Right. But
Yep.
you just said, well, the teachers are not really the math that you're doing.
Okay, so at $1 million to have the study hall, how many kids do we have to lose to make up to eat up that $1 million? That's
For me, it's not a question
I know.
of students that we're losing. It's a question of students that were not adequately teaching. I just...
Well, the first thing that happens is we lose them. The second thing is we do not serve them to the best of our ability, which then forces them out the next year. So yeah, this is awful. I get it. I'm totally with you.
I am as well, Matt. I mean, I've got a child in middle school who loves tech ed. I mean, she made a key fob, was quite proud of all the filing and not too many cuts. And there just isn't a good solution to this. There just isn't. And I guess Dr. Saganak, of trusting the teams that have put this together, trusting the community, and it is all a gamble. It all is a gamble. And I understand what you're saying. I'm so heartfelt, Matt. I mean, you're not really looking at it from the pragmatist side of the financial end. You're looking at it from the educational value of the children, and that's beautiful. It is. I guess I will still support what the community came up with on this, even though it's repugnant.
All right. Well, any other comments? Conversation? Call the roll on the amendment.
Dito?
Nay.
Dito, no. Eliason?
Aye.
Eliason, aye. Gardner?
No.
Gardner, no. Herzog?
Aye.
Herzog, aye. Lemberger?
No.
Lemberger, no. Saginac?
No.
Saginac, no. Wiedenhoft?
Aye.
Wiedenhoft, aye. Motion failed.
Any further conversation on the original resolution? Do we want to consider anything else or any other possible, I'd entertain any other amendments to modify this? Any at all?
I just have one question. In the middle level tech ed, I know that some years ago the district adopted Project Lead the Way at the high school, and there was a middle school component whose name escapes me right now. Are we still using that?
Absolutely. And on March 14th, we have been invited to the Capitol to show off our Project Lead the Way at the middle school level. And we have students from Merrill Middle School and from Tipler Middle School that are taking their projects down to the Rotunda for Project Lead the Way Day at Madison. And so, yes, we have absolutely implemented the Gateway curriculum, and it's our hope to expand that at the middle level. Once again, college career and community readiness and our emphasis on STEM. So bottom line is we want to do all those things.
But that obviously won't be happening if this goes into effect.
Correct.
And this certainly ties in with what several of us witnessed firsthand yesterday, which was the Wave Robotics open house. And I used that opportunity to ask the young people what attracted them to that particular activity, and most of them said they liked the opportunity, and although they didn't necessarily phrase it this way, but the options that would be available to them in the future because of getting involved with this. A young lady told me that she worked with a young man to do some wiring, and she said, I knew nothing about this in September. And then there was this object that they put together, she and this young man. He was very modest about it, but they loved this stuff.
The enthusiasm in that room was just incredible.
It was.
Mm-hmm.
It was.
If you'll permit me, I can't resist, but I too was there. And of course, one thinks of the technological expertise that one gains through the project, but what struck me, as it never has before, is the manner in which the students conduct themselves with the public. And it struck me very clearly that, having been in the employer role, that, wow, somebody would be very lucky to get a hold of this guy or this woman, because what a presence they are for an organization. And talking about value and things, it's a remarkable experience.
Having mentioned those two things, drawing it back to the reconciliation list, again, I would entertain any motions people have put forward this body.
Do we know where we are with the recruitment of additional students into the ALPS program for next year?
Yes, right now we're anticipating adding an additional classroom. Right now we're currently at 2 classrooms. We're anticipating adding back our 4-5 component to ALPS. So we'll have 3 classrooms at ALPS, bringing in an additional, Kim, I believe it was 24 students.
Yeah, it was, yes.
Additional 24 students to ALPS. So because as you as a board had stated last year, really rather than looking to eliminate ALPS, we need to look at ramping up recruiting and bringing in, and that's exactly what has been done by the advisory board and Mrs. Poquette, the principal of Merrill Elementary and ALPS. They have done an excellent job of hosting, bringing in, and recruiting students. So it's looking like 24 students who are going to be added to ALPS.
So that about doubles this year's size, is that correct?
They have 27 right now, right?
Is it 20? Is it 27? I would be guessing. So.
Yeah, it was
I want
27.
to verify the numbers before I say something out on camera and say, oh, she was wrong.
Okay. Yeah, we would definitely be increasing. So,
Okay.
and we would be looking at adding a 3rd teacher because of the number of students.
Anyone else? Call the roll.
Eliza,
I'm sorry, Ms. Collins, this is to go back to the original, the
This
resolution.
is yes or no on the original amendment.
On the original
no,
list.
the resolution.
I'm sorry, on the original, yes.
Resolution as,
On the original resolution as originally stated.
no.
Eliza, Noah Garner.
Aye.
Garner, aye. Herzog.
Aye.
Herzog, aye. Lemberger.
Aye.
Lemberger, aye. Saginaw.
Aye.
Saginaw, aye. Wiedenhoff.
No.
Wiedenhoff, no. Vito.
Aye.
Vito, aye. Motion carried.
Are there any future agenda items that people wish to bring forward?
I don't know where it goes. I've just been hearing a lot of, and it's probably not a timely thing, but I just need to get it out into the minutes so that we maybe don't forget about it. But I've been hearing a lot of discussion and concern about how the new times at the high school is impacting learning, because so many of the kids that are athletes miss the last hour of class. I never realized that would happen when we originally designed this new time. And not that I'm here with an answer or anything, but I would just like it to get on our radar, because kids are missing the last period of class all the time, and parents are concerned. And so I just kind of wanted to put it out there, because people have come to me with concerns, and I wanted to make it known. I don't know where we put
Same is
that.
also true at the middle school level.
Mhm.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, and part of what we also will be doing is comparing grades for the first 2 hours in the morning to determine if there's an increase in academic achievement.
Right, I remember
the more
that.
casual
Right.
reflection has been that the outcomes of having students alert and awake in the morning
Right.
there. And that would be based on 100% of students. And the issue we deal with is that struggle. And frankly, it's also been complicated by the amount of cancellations and redos and things that have been, but we'll explore that.
Also had the pleasure of speaking to a leadership class at North, and when we were wrapping up the class, we had some casual conversation, and I chatted with them about the time. And I said, so do you like it? Has it helped you? And most of the kids looked at me and they kind of snickered and they said, we're up anyway. They're not sleeping in. They're up anyway. So just thought I'd put that out there.
Do we want that as a workshop item then?
I don't know where it's best served. Maybe education. I'm not sure. I'll let you decide.
I guess I'm assuming that we're going to want to know how it's impacting them and what we might do to change it.
I would not recommend it for the March work session,
No.
but for April or
No,
May.
it's
And
definitely
we'll
not urgent. I just didn't want it to.
We'd want to explore with contract carrier whether simply if we want to abandon flipping it, can we get the same combined busing operation?
Just wanted to put it out there.
Right.
Mr. Dito?
During the Energy Committee meeting yesterday, it was suggested, and I wholeheartedly agree with the concept of it, and the subject of grant writing, that many educators seem to be somewhat hesitant about dipping their toe into this pool of trying to get extra money because of the bureaucracy, the paperwork, and all this other stuff. It was suggested at that time that perhaps it would be something that we could have a workshop set up either on a quarterly basis, monthly basis, or something for educators to come and be taught by those who have written grants in the past. Just take out a classroom somewhere on whatever, on a Saturday afternoon or something from 2 to 4, learn how to write grants. We would be teaching our teachers how to instill the grant writing process or begin the grant writing process. And for my own self, in the past, I think people hesitate on things many times because they're kind of afraid of it. They hear maybe horror stories about it, they see successes, but then they wonder if there's something that they are able to pull off. I think once they go through that first door and find out that it's not this huge gargantuan task, that maybe we would actually be able to encourage our educators to start writing more grants, which would directly benefit their classrooms.
I assume we bring that also as a workshop, but instead of like the last one, this one would be more in terms of whether or not the administration feels is feasible and how they would execute it.
Yes, and it doesn't have to be in March, certainly, but I just thought it was, we had a nice
Again,
discussion
sometime in
about it, yes.
April or later. Other items? Requests for future agenda items? No? All right, announcements? Anyone?
Could you just repeat where that event is at, or when that event is at Beckett's with the
It's
prom
at
dress?
5 o'clock, as I recall, and it's 5 o'clock on March 1st.
Oh, okay, so it's this Saturday then?
Yes, this Saturday.
Thank you.
From the Genius Hour thing?
Yes, the Genius, that's what I was trying to remember the name of it. Yes, the
Thank you.
Genius Hour. All right, then I guess I'd entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session.
So moved.
For the purpose of,
Oh, I'm sorry. For the purpose of considering the employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility under 19.851C Wisconsin statutes preliminary notice of non-renewal of temporary teacher contracts.
So moved. Second.
Call the roll.
Garner?
Aye.
Garner, aye. Herzog?
Aye.
Herzog, aye. Lemberger?
Aye.
Lemberger, aye. Saginaw?
Aye.
Saginaw, aye. Weidman?
Aye.
Weidman, aye. Vito?
Aye.
Vito, aye. Eliason?
Aye.
Eliason, aye. Motion carries.
We'll take a 5-minute break.